What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today we're going to talk about the Solo movie, and a lot of discussion has come out from Alden Ehrenreich, as well as Donald Glover has talked about the fact that this is going to be the funniest Star Wars film that we've had. Shouldn't be a hard stretch if you're talking about actual comedy compared to crap like The Last Jedi, but I think stuff like The Last Jedi is what worries me. Whether or not that it's going to be this sad attempt at humor. And of course we know they did hire Lord and Miller, which makes sense if they were trying to make a funnier film. The problem being Lord and Miller took it a little too far in their mindset and strayed off and did the typical comedy as opposed to one that needed to have more of a connection or through line or story that they had to be consistent with. The issue is I don't know how great of a writer or how great Lawrence Kasdan and them are at doing humor. It does worry me a little bit, and here's what I started to think about. When I started to think about it, and why would they try to, call this the funniest movie? They keep talking about it's a fun summer film, and it's going to be really humorous, and Lando or Donald Glover was talking about that. We all know that these characters are going to die because we got them later. So instead of having that kind of tone of like Rogue One, it's going to be more of a tone of like kind of lighthearted, which doesn't fit the kind of visuals we have, the cinematography that we get, where it's a very dark kind of noir-esque kind of dystopian feel. And it's like, oh, but we're humorous. It's kind of odd, but I thought this sounds like they're trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy, which is really sad at this point. The first Guardians of the Galaxy I enjoyed. Second one I didn't. I thought it was kind of not very good. But I mean, it wasn't terrible, but the first one was better. This one just, The Guardians essentially became this generation's, or the newest generation, Star Wars. And it was this out of nowhere, fun, cool adventure film kind of idea that just made, A New Hope, Star Wars is still 1,000 times better movie than Guardians of the Galaxy is, but in the essence of how it just kind of blew up out of nowhere, had that similar feel. And they were kind of copying some of the ideas or concepts, or, it was following along in the footsteps of Star Wars. How sad is it now that we are a few years into Disney owning Lucasfilm, and it seems like that they're about to start copying Guardians of the Galaxy with Star Wars. So now it's reversed. Now, is it for sure? No. This is just an idea I thought of and I would discuss. And if it does happen, that's going to be sad. Even if it's a good movie, at least it'll be a good movie. But you're at the point where Star Wars is copying like a 10th or 12th level comic book series, by Guardians of the Galaxy. That title name is not very huge compared to the prior other names you could have had, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, so on, Wonder Woman, so on and so forth. And it's kind of sad, but they're trying to be humorous. It's obviously set in space. You've got a group of anti-heroes. They're all basically not really good guys at this point. You got Tobias Beckett, who's basically going to be playing Yondu. You've got the girl who seems to actually be one of the more powerful out of the entire group. You've got the big character that doesn't really speak, Chewie versus Groot. And it seems like this kind of, they're anti-heroes. They're going to be kind of band together and put together. And it's going to end up being a more evil thing that's going to cause them to have to kind of join together and do something kind of good towards the end. It seems like what it's going to be, which is exactly what we have with Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, is anyone that puts together an anti-hero group and has a comedic kind of concept behind it, and the anti-hero group goes off and does something slightly good because there's a worse evil, is that going to always be copying Guardians of the Galaxy? No. But it kind of seems like a lot of these things fit. You've got the higher up, longer term bad guy that's not really that bad, but leads a group that brings in the character that's the focus of the movie. That he's going to kind of teach him up on some things, and he's going to really care about him, but he's probably going to kind of end up messing with him a little bit and causing him to not fully trust him. You know, and here you've got Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson, and you've got Han Solo. This is what that seems like. And then you've got Yondu and Chris Pratt. And then that's going to lead them to go off on their own, and they're going to prefer to work on their own because, you know, they didn't have the best situation with what was going on beforehand. And you're going to have a character that is lovable, kind of snarky, sarcastic, super talented, but a little cocky and gets himself into situations and trouble. Well, that's what you've got with Chris Pratt's character now with Han Solo. Now, you can say, yeah, well, Han Solo was, you know, you could argue that Starkiller, what is his name? I'm just blanking on it.
Hey, you know what? There's another name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man.
Chris Pratt's character, you know, was kind of created to be somewhat like a Han Solo anyways. But it's just interesting. And I was thinking about that, and I thought I would present some of these options up to y'all and see what you thought. Is this a good thing? Is it better than some other things that they could do? Is it a bad thing? Is it just the circumstances? Is it just this is the best story for them to tell, and it just happens to be similar to what we had before, and that it's not like kind of a copy? Because it has seemed, the biggest reason why I even begun to talk about this is because the humor of Star Wars, specifically Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, has gotten to be Marvel humor, where it's quip for the characters. Each character has to have quippy kind of, you know, back and forth comedic moments. And even if there's a tense moment, we gotta cut it with humor, because humor. It comes from the Joss Whedon's idea, where Joss Whedon his concept is to make it dark, make it serious, and for God's sakes, tell a joke, is a quote that he gave. And that's something that just Marvel has hammered home from that point on. And forget the tone, forget the tension, no matter what it is, throw in a joke. Gotta throw a joke in, because if you don't, people are gonna feel terrible and they're not gonna enjoy themselves. And I feel like that's what it's gonna be, because they keep hitting home that, and interview after interview, Alan's talking about how it's gonna be funny. It's a lot of humor. There's a lot of jokes in here. And I hope it's situational. But yeah, those are my thoughts on, you know, is Solo trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy? And is it set up with this team up, this kind of odd group, this group of anti-heroes? It's going to be quippy back and forth. It's going to be humorous. And then they're going to go and try to do something, and then they're going to do it. But then there's going to be a bigger evil that then they're going to have to try to join together and overcome, and, you know, that kind of thing. It just seems like that's what it's setting up. That could be a fitting way to do this movie. And if you're going to do a more humorous style of movie, do it in the anthology films or Star Wars stories. Don't do it in the Skywalker saga. If you're going to experiment and do different things that are kind of outside the typical genre of the space opera Skywalker, don't do it in the trilogy films. I want the trilogy films to be like the original Star Wars, in the sense of tone, feel, the way the humor is presented, the music, all of that. If you want to spread it out on the films that are solo stories, okay, I can, you know, still need to take some time to adjust to that concept, but I get it. That's for the betterment of being able to make Star Wars films. I mean, I've been kind of beating around in my head a video idea of talking about Guillermo del Toro doing videos or movies for Star Wars, and the idea of him doing a very dark side kind of, or almost a horror type feel of a movie, you know, kind of a Pan's Labyrinth, creepy, eerie world, Star Wars. And, you know, you can't do that if you're following the typical Star Wars. I mean, you kind of could, but I would rather let Guillermo do Guillermo And so that, you know, those things need to be done separate from the Star Wars saga, in my mind. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. And never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.